And hello once again, everybody, to Mystery Movie Nostalgia with Family and Friends. I'm your host, Brian, aka Benny Lava, as some people have called me. It was from a YouTube video from way back in the day that a friend of my sister's would watch, and it's basically one of those videos where, like, it's a Bollywood video.
Oh, okay.
And it's particularly the song, and they interpret like what they're saying, but like in English, what it sounds like in English.
Right. Okay.
And the main hook is like, the loony fun is fine, Benny Lava. And they're speaking Punjabi, I think, or Tamils. And that's what, and it just like, it kind of stuck after that. After like, I just started with like, oh, my name's Benny Lava, like a bunch of other dumb names. But anyways, yeah, so hopefully the settings are better now. I put the mic away, far away from me because I just realized that I'm like super duper loud. So, and I know that you saw the first two, or you heard the first two episodes. Did you notice that, like, particularly mine was like
kind of different? Yeah.
And then my friend Patrick, you noticed like his was like,
yeah, it was a different
crisp.
Yeah.
And then mine was just like,
yeah.
Even though I was like trying to, get away from it. But anyways, that voice you hear is my guest for this episode, the friend. We've known each other since I moved to Nashville about 2.5 years ago because we're in the same Kingdom Hall. We get along really well because we both geek out on movies, comic books, all that stuff. And we both find solace in each other because of our back pain and our stomach problems.
Our health problems. What brings us together.
Yeah, what brings us together. So this is my friend, Tony.
We are relatable in many ways.
Yes. So welcome to the podcast, Tony. Thank you so much for doing this.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Tony, and his name isn't Anthony. It's Tony.
It's just Tony. My father, his name is Antonio. He did not like the name Anthony. And
Anthony's such a good name, though.
I know, but I don't know what it was with him.
And he didn't want Antonio.
And he didn't want it a junior. He didn't want
Gotcha.
Anthony Jr. or Antonio Jr. But since like his name was Antonio, people called him Tony, and he enjoyed that, and so he was like, let's just call him Tony. So my name is just a nickname.
The reason I wanted to have you on, but I had you on earlier than later because you listened to actually both of the podcasts, both the episodes that are already out, and you gave me some really good feedback. So I really appreciate you for your good feedback and for doing this, bro. Thank you so much.
Congrats on doing this, because I know it's not easy. It's a lot harder than people think. I mean,
it's a lot. I thought it was just plug and play kind of thing, and I was like, no, you got to prep and do all this other stuff and fine. Yeah. And it's specifically like with you and some other friends that I have that love movies and stuff like that. It's like, how can I find a movie that they haven't seen?
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. But surprisingly, I mean, there are tons of movies that we have not seen.
Yeah,
I've seen movies that you haven't seen, vice versa. There's just so much that I don't think we're able to watch all of them in our lifetime.
No.
It's too much.
But alrighty then, bro. So let's get into what movie we're going to watch. I texted you about 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
3 movies that I were potentially up for us to view them. So it was Soylent Green, Rollerball, and the one we're going to watch today is THX-1138. I know you said you've heard of this. So what?
Yes.
You haven't seen it, though.
I've never seen it.
So what do you know about this movie?
The only thing I know about it is that the THX was used for it was from a movie, and now it's from, like, I guess, a sound system, I believe, that Lucasfilm developed, and pretty much it was just a like a homage or like a nice little Easter egg that they did. But that's pretty much all I know. I know it's something that impressed George Lucas, and that's it. That's all I know.
So you are on the right track.
Okay.
So this movie does have something to do with George Lucas.
Okay.
In that George Lucas directed it and wrote it.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So like, yeah. I was like, oh, dude, that's so funny that he's like, he had something to do with, like, no.
Knew that it had to do with George Lucas.
Yeah. So the original premise comes from a short story a short film rather, that George Lucas did when he was a student at USC. And if you know anything about movies, you know that in LA, USC and UCLA are like the big film schools that like a bunch of famous directors and writers have gone to, you know, actually, you know, George Lucas included. So this movie THX-1138 was then developed into a feature film. And the reason it got made was because that Francis Ford Coppola was actually at the Student Film Awards in USC. And he saw this film and he saw that George Lucas had won basically all the student awards. And I think, if memory serves correct, it was THX 1138, like EB4 or E4EB or something like that. And they just shortened it to THX. So that's where the THX come from, which eventually became a subsidiary of Lucasfilms and like the sound design.
Right.
And if you remember, like in a bunch of movies that had like amazing design before them, they would put like the THX logo and it would make like that. I remember there was a Simpsons episode.
Yes.
Where they do that, and then like the end, they're like, the audience is now deaf. Sorry, not death. Well, also probably dead too. So this movie is a science fiction movie. It's about a dystopian future, and it deals with a lot of the issues about individuality, about corporate isms, I guess, capitalism, authoritarian control. And so this movie was influenced by like 1984, Brave New World, Metropolis and stuff like that. So it's set in a dystopian future. Although, and doing some little bit of research, George Lucas said that this really wasn't a movie about the future, but more of like how people were living at the time in the 70s. So I was like, okay, like, I don't know. I wasn't around in that era, but
right, yeah.
But you know, we'll watch it again. So I haven't seen this movie in a really long time. I saw that when I was a kid, and this was when I started getting a lot into Star Wars.
Right.
And so I kind of like saw American Graffiti, which is one of George Lucas's other films. This one, and I like science fiction through and through. Science fiction is probably my favorite genre of movies.
Same. But
even subgenre to that, I love dystopian sci-fi movies.
Right.
So you got the Matrixes. Have you seen the movie The Island? Yeah. It's probably, it's not saying much, but it's probably Michael Bay's best film, which is a very low bar to low bar. Those Transformer movies were.
The first one is still my favorite, but it kind of just started to go downhill.
And yeah, and you know what's funny? I actually like the third one, and I know a lot of people don't
Really?
like that one. Yeah,
You really like it?
I do.
It's okay to like it. You know, you're allowed to like things. That's fine. You know, but you know,
You're allowed to like things, but you're wrong.
if I tell people, look, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. You know, I'm not going to judge you for it. You know, if you enjoy
I will.
Keep doing it.
Yeah. So I saw it when I was a kid. I was in high school. I was going through, you know, and I've said this many times before in life and also on the podcast, that movies are a big part of my life and a part of our family's lives. And I think I don't remember who it was that showed me this movie or told me about this movie, but it was either my dad or my uncle. I know for a fact that my uncle was the one that introduced me to Star Wars. Maybe not introduce me, but he was the first one to show me Star Wars. Maybe I kind of knew about it. I for sure knew like the spoilers for a movie that's almost like 40 years old. But in Empire Strike Back, like Luke, I am your father kind of thing. And we watched it during when the prequels came out, and when they had the re-release of the special editions and by the way, Han shot first, guys. Yes. Han shot first. I know it's been said 100 times. Han shot first. If you see that cut, the way he moves his head is it's unnatural.
It's just
it looks blocky.
George wanted something different. Wanted something. I don't know what he wanted, but he did it. But there you go. I mean, for me, it's funny that you say that, because my introduction to Star Wars was I was probably 6, 7 years old. I was second grade or something like that. And I remember we in my classroom, we were having a party or something. We had soda, we had food and everything, and they put a movie on. And that movie was the first Star Wars film. And you know how Star Wars starts. The Star Wars theme just captures your attention.
And the crawl.
And I was like, the music was just, I love classical music. I love orchestrated music. And that just got my attention. I was 7. I didn't know how to read very well, so I had no idea what the crawl was saying. But the way it was introduced, you see the first ship just fly, and then you have this the enemy ship behind it, the Star Destroyer, just being this huge ship, just really just makes, as a 7-year-old kid, that just blows your mind. And then the first characters you're introduced are the droids, R2-D2, C-3PO, these shiny robots. And I got as far as to before the introduction of Luke Skywalker. And I did not see the rest of it until a couple of years later. And
really?
Yes, which was a real agonizing feeling because when you're a 7-year-old and you say, I want to see the movie in space with shiny robots, there's countless movies like that.
And as a matter of fact, you were talking about another one earlier about movies in space, Alien and Aliens.
I still haven't seen the first one. I have to see it.
I think I told you about this once, but the and if you hear airplanes, I live right by an airport.
Yeah,
that's probably one of my workplace.
It's your Amazon shipping company.
Yeah, but Alien was a big success, and then James Cameron came on for Aliens. He went into the boardroom of the executives of whatever movie production, I think it was Fox. And he pitched the movie, but his pitch was basically going to a whiteboard, writing Alien, then for the S, Aliens, he put a $sign through it and like walked away, like mic drop. And he's like, so instead of like, in the first Alien, it's literally 1.
Right.
Now he's like, put more $signs.
Right.
Success. So going on that, what are some of your favorite sci-fi movies? We already talked about Star Wars.
I mean, yeah, Star Wars will be one. We just recently, semi-recently, the Dune movies came out.
We did, and we saw those.
Really a big fan of it. I've heard of Dune. I've never been able to read the books.
The books are so long.
They're just like, the first one's like 900 pages. So you have to really advance.
It's so long. Give me the audiobooks.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If I ever really do want to know what the book is about, I would get the audiobooks because, life happens and you just really have to be committed to read a book that size. There's like I'm trying to remember what other big sci-fi.
I recently, and I always reference this YouTube channel, but Mr. Sunday Movies, he has this series called Caravan of Garbage, which is kind of where I got the idea for this a little bit. And it's called Caravan of Garbage because they started looking at like terrible like things in pop culture, like movies or TV and stuff like that. But now it's just like they just watch whatever kind of thing. Yeah, but they recently did Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Terminator 2 it's just amazing, bro. It's probably like a perfect sci-fi movie.
It is. You don't even have to see the first one to understand.
You really don't.
You could just go to Terminator 2.
And they kind of explain it enough.
For newcomers,
in the second one.
Enough for newcomers to understand.
And I think they do it like in 3 or 4 sentences, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Okay, let's go. Movie starts. And Terminator 2, I own it. I think, it's one of the really awesome films. I've always been a sci-fi kid, when I was younger, and I still am. And it was really funny that I remember I was talking to my mom, and she realized I'm the only one in the family that enjoys sci-fi.
Really?
Yeah, and then she just looked at me in the eyes for some reason. She did this. She looked at me in the eyes and asked me, "Is there something wrong with you?"
And you're like,
"It's like, Mom."
You're like, I mean, yes, but not because of the sci-fi.
And I just like these. I like these stories of space, of aliens, because they're fun, adventurous. They're not, What I love about movies is that they help you escape reality for a moment. I really enjoy. I mean, it helps you forget about life's problems. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm trying to forget my problems. It's just, it's good to escape.
Yeah, escapism. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
As long as the movie's really good.
Yeah.
Then Yeah, I'm all up for it.
So far we've only watched pretty good movies. I guess, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about Runaway. I enjoy it. I enjoy the movie a lot, but there are some movies that are on the list that are just terrible. Like on the list of movies that we're gonna do for the podcast,
Like,
there's some that are just
I
like
need to
straight up
ask-
bad.
I remember when this movie came out, and did you ever watch Disney's John Carter?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I
I have the book. I have
okay.
I have the books. It's
John Carter of Mars, right?
All of them. Yes, John Carter of Mars.
With Taylor Kitsch.
Yes.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe was the voice of.
Yeah. And I remember the other people, but
What did you think of that film?
I think that goes in a category of movies, which, breaking news, everybody, I'm going to do another podcast about like a top 5 things, or like a list. Everybody loves lists.
Yes, stay tuned.
So stay tuned for that. But this goes in a category of movies that had potential, but the execution was just not good. It's something, I don't know what.
The thing is,
I don't know what.
I really love this movie. I love this story, but even I will admit, like, I became a fan, but I know what's wrong with it. It's too much into one.
Isn't it like 3 hours long?
It is almost. It's like 2.5, somewhere around hours long of a story, and there was just too much to tell in one film. And unfortunately for that, I mean, there were plans to making like 3 movies.
Yes.
But because of this film, it flopped so bad that Disney abandoned it.
Because this was kind of off the back of Pirates of the Caribbean. And they thought, well, if that worked, we can do something like that, but in
Gambit
space.
was my favorite X-Men. And just
shit, I'm about to make a name they for
Oh,
were myself. doing that on purpose.
I know Electra was
X-Men
great.
Wolverine Origins.
The crowd went nuts. She wasn't like angry.
I really do
upset.
feel
she
because,
was
like,
just really
we all know-
disappointed. They've never seen. They've never seen the source material, and I'm like, that is a mistake.
3 hours later.
And in the extended universe, see, this is what happens when you get 2 nerds. Like, we're here to talk about THX, and we're like, and Deadpool, and another thing about Joker.
About topic.
But which is fine, bro. That's what we're here for. All right, then, dude, you ready to watch this movie? Ready to get some pizza in us? Watch this THX?
Yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to watching this movie. I've been wanting to watch it for some time now. Life interferes with you, but I'm glad.
Back problems get in the way.
Problems, stuff happens, man. But hey, you're giving me this opportunity. I can't wait to watch it with you and really try to experience it and find out. I'm looking forward to talking about it afterwards.
All right, dude, let's do this.
Do it.
So we are back, guys. This is the second part where we watched the movie. We finished watching the movie yesterday, but life got in the way again. It got kind of late, to be honest. And we're old. We needed our sleep.
I want my 8 hours of sleep. All right, I'm sorry. I get cranky.
This was an interesting film.
This was.
It's very much a student film, although at this point it wasn't. They got a budget. They got backing by Francis Ford Coppola and Warner Brothers. But you can tell there's some student elements to this movie, like some guerrilla filmmaking kind of things going on.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, an experience. I mean, the person in charge, George Lucas, you could tell he had vision, but he also kind of lacked something else. It was an interesting story, but we're gonna really get into it.
In watching, there's a documentary on the making of this movie.
Oh, is there?
It was THX-1138. I kept saying 1138, but they kept pronouncing it in the 1138.
They did, yes.
Yeah. So he said he gave the script to like the guy who is a Walter Murch, which was the other co-writer of the screenplay, and he gave him. And then George Lucas said that he told him before, hey, I really don't know how to write screenplays. So he gives him the screenplay. Walter reads it and comes back and tells George, yeah, you really can't write screenplays. And I would say that I think with George Lucas, I think some of his best work is when he delegates. He has his ideas, he has his characters, but he delegates things to other people. So like Empire Strikes Back. I think that was kind of the same with Indiana Jones, where he kind of had him and Spielberg had the idea, and I think Lucas was about to direct, but he was like, no, like, somebody else do it. But then you see the prequels, which are now, loved.
Yeah, now,
but not at the time they weren't, because it was just like he had complete control over that thing. And it's like, well, you can be like the overseeing person, but like delegate some of the things out to other people. And I think that's what he's better at. That's when he shines, I think.
Yeah, I really do believe, like, he has vision. He has really cool ideas. It's just he lacks the tools to actually use them efficiently or to execute them. He definitely needs somebody to
see his vision through. Like all the ideas percolate, but it's, when it comes to pen to paper,
it
kind of
he needs a partner.
He needs a guiding
sit
hand.
down with him and help him explain, and totally get that.
So we didn't mention the cast in the beginning. So this movie stars Robert Duvall as THX-1138. Although in the movie, I think, although they don't say it once, but his roommate, and later becomes his love interest, LUH, she calls him Thex,
which we both in unison said, what?
Is that how it's supposed to be pronounced?
What? I never heard of this.
But throughout the whole movie, the other characters, they call him THX.
Yeah, she was it that one time?
It was only that one time.
That one time, right?
Yeah, so Robert Duvall came out in Apocalypse Now, famously To Kill a Mockingbird. And then I think his most famous role was The Godfather.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie. I recently saw it for the first time maybe a year ago. And what makes it so good is the writing. It's just like something about the storytelling and the writing is just so, so good. So if you haven't seen that movie. So then the other character is Donald Pleasence, which is SEN5241, which in the movie they just call him Sen.
Right.
So I don't know if you recognized him, but he comes out in the movies, the Halloween movies, and he's Blofeld in the original 007.
No.
Yeah, that's him.
That was him?
That's him, yeah. You can't tell because he doesn't have the facial scar, but that's him.
Oh.
So like that was the only like quote unquote big name that they had, kind of like in Star Wars. The only big name they had was
Harrison Ford, wasn't it?
Alex McGuinness.
Ron, that's right. Yeah,
Les Uncle George you're looking for.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like classic character actor, classic, well-known play actor. Yeah,
got it.
And then the other main character is LUH 3417, played by Maggie McOmie. And she did this in one other movie, but she never really pursued an acting career.
Okay.
I mean, she didn't really have time to shine too much in the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
she was good for what the part needed her to do, but it wasn't like, oh wow.
It was like she was like, if you really look at it, she was like in the movie for like half of it.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, honestly. And then you have the other character that shows up in the middle of the movie.
Wow, late in the
movie. I actually didn't write that down.
And the only reason we know the problem is with this character, he never says his name. Nobody ever asks him his name. The only reason we know his name is because we were watching this movie with subtitles,
and
there's just this one part. It just shows that he was talking, and his name is just SRT.
And his inclusion was kind of weird. I guess we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And really strange inclusion. It just comes all of a sudden. All right, he's there.
So this film is about a dystopian society. It doesn't really say it's the future. It's just a dystopian society where all these different people are with their names are basically like assigned like a serial number or like a manufacturing number. And they are either building robots or they're surveilling each other. It's one of horror. Yeah, it didn't seem like there was anything else other than, and then maybe like the bureaucracy people, but they also kind of seemed to be in the same situation where they were being controlled either through the mind controlling thing, which we didn't understand how they were doing that.
Right.
And then the pills,
right,
which were suppressing. Again, they didn't. A big theme in this movie, or a big general consensus in the movie, they don't explain a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
The movie moves fast.
Yeah.
The editing is a really wonky in the sense of like something happens and it cuts to something else, and you're left wondering, wait,
What just happened?
what just happened in this
You didn't
version?
have
Like
enough
nothing was
about it.
explained,
Yeah.
but you're supposed to like we were saying, the movie seemed and George Lucas seemed to want you. Here's A and here's C. You need to figure out B.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only and maybe like interpret yourself. So there's a couple scenes like that. I don't know if you got that sense from this movie.
I did. Yeah. They're pretty much you're only given like 2 seconds to figure out parts B was.
So early in the movie, we're introduced to the main character, which is Robert Duvall's THX. We're just gonna call him by like THX. And he starts off saying that he feels sick. He feels like he's dying. He feels weird.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
Did you notice, like, at the beginning of the film, though,
Okay.
it starts off with an ad of Buck Rogers.
Buck Rogers. That's right.
It's out of nowhere, and it just starts with that. And the only thing I know about Buck Rogers, I've never really seen the show, but I know George Lucas grew up with it.
Yeah.
I know he loves it. And it's literally like 30 seconds to a minute, and it even has that 1940s voice, like, you know, find out next time on Buck Rogers.
I hope Silver away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it just starts, the opening credits starts, and here's an interesting thing that the credits, you can see where the Star Wars opening crawl.
Where the crawl got, that's basically what it is.
Pretty much the crawl is from top to bottom instead of, bottom to the top. It was an interesting idea. You know, it started slowly going down, saying THX, the actors, the producers, executives, all that stuff.
Yeah.
All of it was going from the top of the screen to the bottom, and then movie starts. But my question is, why there was a Buck Rogers?
Well, the only reason I can think of, one, it was probably his influence. Like, I think if it would have been like something like Flash Gordon or Seven Samurai,
yeah,
I would have been like, okay, like that makes sense because those were influences on Star Wars.
Yeah, I just assumed that Buck Rogers was going to come back
in the movie, and it does,
but it never does.
We watched the director's cut of the movie.
Yeah,
if you can, it's the director's cut. It's not R, but it's not PG.
Yeah,
13. So if you can watch the watch the regular version.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I can chalk it up to that.
Okay.
Is that they just added it because George Lucas was like being influenced by all this stuff. And in this director's cut, you can immediately tell where they added certain scenes to it because it looks
too good.
It looks too good for the time.
Like with CGI, it looks
kind of like in the Star Wars the remaster version that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, like they added scenes to make it more the city more inhabited.
Yeah, more inhabited.
Things more explained and such.
And maybe that adds I think that might add a little bit more to the confusion of the movie, and we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. But we were kind of like, oh, I thought it was just one society, but there's at least like 3 or 4 different societies in this.
Yeah,
this world.
That's what I believed. Like at first, I thought this was like a compound.
Yeah, like a contained,
a big facility.
Yeah,
but no, the more you see the movie, the more you start to find out. Oh no,
it branches.
This is an actual city with a population of thousands, and
there's like there's like the working class, and there's like the bureaucracy, but then there's like the rich, I guess the rich people. But also there's kids at some point, and in the other part there wasn't any kids.
There's even
those kids
in this film too.
There's a prison, and the kids didn't seem like they were being mind controlled because they were happy. They were like showing emotions.
Yeah,
and
they were like, I guess in the beginning of the stages or something.
Yeah,
they did have these certain chemical bottles are wrapped around their arm.
Oh, that's right.
And one of the tube, that's what fell. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
When we get to that, but yeah, I mean they were in the beginning of starting off, and I guess that's why they were showing emotions because the medication hasn't kicked in yet.
So like we mentioned, we were introduced early into THX, and he was saying that he feels strange, he feels weird, he feels like he's dying, and he works in this facility where they're just basically making robots, and everybody from the get-go, you can tell something's off with these people because there was a factory explosion.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, oh, well, like, yeah, not even, oh, well, they were just like, stoic, like nothing happened.
Yeah, they were emotionless.
Yeah, emotionless.
They didn't express any emotion. They didn't feel anything. The citizens of this dystopia pretty much just they interact with each other, but not in a human way, if that makes sense. You know?
And I was thinking that like the way, that's how you can tell the THX was different because he seemed
To feel
something, so much so that he goes to confession, quote unquote. It was basically a digital Jesus. So they go into like I guess you could say like one of those old school telephone
booth or something.
It was like a confessional booth / like,
and on the right, there's this large panel with an image of it's not Jesus, but it's a
Jesus-like thing.
Image. And he is literally confessing to it. And there's like a digital voice on loop, pretty much not really listening to you.
I understand.
Right.
And that's all he's
saying these things just to
Robert Duvall's talking over him and things just going, I understand.
Like,
good.
I feel like I'm dying.
How did that make you feel?
Good for you.
So he says stuff like it dying.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it's because this is what I inferred. And that was this is one of the things that they don't explain why he feels like that, is because his roommates, they call them mates.
Right.
But they're just roommates. They're not because they're affection or intimacy is frowned upon.
Yeah, it's prohibited.
It's prohibited. So not frowned upon, prohibited.
Yeah,
you're right. I inferred that the reason he feels like he's dying or he feels sick and started throwing up is because he started feeling emotions.
Right.
Because his mate was cutting his pills. Like she wasn't giving him the right amount of pills, and that whole arc or that whole storyline is directly from the book A Brave New World, where and I think also from 1984. But A Brave New World, they take pills to suppress emotions.
Okay. Like maybe I missed it, but can you tell me like LUH, like why did she decide to do this? I don't think
it doesn't explain it.
It doesn't explain it. It just starts off with
it just starts that
she's doing this to him, but trying to help him.
Yes. And it goes for maybe one or two scenes.
Right.
And then it goes to the scene where he tells her, why did you drag me into this? And then, they become close, so to speak. And then it cuts there. And then you're just supposed to infer they fell in love.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. It didn't seem to me like time had passed, but I think you're supposed to.
I think
you're supposed to
turn months have passed.
Yeah, or something like that.
It just feels really like, okay, it's the next day.
It really feels like it's the next like hour.
Yeah,
he's like,
really, it's so fast.
He's like, why did you bring me into this? And he's like, I love you. Or he says something to you to explain like, oh, he loves her, and that's what she wanted.
She wanted to feel,
but it's never explained why she wanted to do that or how she even got the thought process to do that. And so then it's inferred that they're intimate, right, on a regular basis. So much so that she worries that people are surveilling them, and he's like, no, they're not, but they 100% are. Like this society controls everything and knows everything you're doing. So my other question was, why did they let this go on? It's never explained.
It's never explained. It's because
if they're surveilling them and they know everything that's going on,
surveillance is everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras in their
bedrooms everywhere, and even so much so that they can control them remotely.
Yeah,
and it's never explained how they can,
why,
or how.
But the people that are in charge, they know all this, but we don't know who they are or why they're doing it. We just hear their voices and we're just seeing, through their eyes, they're watching a monitor and doing these things. And that's what I'm saying. Like everything is monitored, everything is controlled, everything is being looked at. And it's literally Big Brother, but times 100.
Yeah. And it's never, like you said, it's never explained if this is an authoritarian government, this is a corporation, or this is some sort of like dystopian future. And I do like that they don't explain it, but I would have liked a little bit more. So in watching the documentary, it's actually called Bald. It's funny.
Okay, yeah.
George Lucas said that he didn't want that much dialogue in the movie, and he kind of wanted you
to figure it out.
To not only figure it out, yes, but also to have the story kind of tell the situation and their actions.
Got it.
More than like the the dialogue, or as we were saying yesterday, the exposition.
Yeah, they didn't want to, like, you know, hand feed you the information. They wanted you to actually figure it out, to actually understand what's going on.
And it was weird to me that they'd let this relationship go on as long as it did, because eventually they do interfere.
Yeah,
The society does interfere, and they
interfere. Why do they interfere now?
why do they interfere now? And then so the other character that we're introduced to is SCN, or they call him Sen in the story, which is played by Donald Pleasence. And he has ulterior motives and it's never explained why. So he basically wants to be roommates with THX, so much so that he manipulates, basically hacks into the system. He's good with computers. He keeps saying, like, I'm good with computers. So he can go to restricted areas and change certain things and stuff like that. And he wants to be his roommate. And again, the roommates they're not supposed to be
at first,
physical with each other.
At first, I thought this guy was a creep.
Yes, it 100% comes off as a creep.
Right. The thing is, like, the reason he wanted THX is because, if I don't know if you remember, his SEN's roommate died in the latest explosion. So now he's alone, and he wanted THX to be his roommate for some reasons. I thought he was like
being a creep about it,
and a creep about it. Maybe he was seeing THX as to be romantically involved, but later we find out that I think this guy just wanted a friend.
Maybe. And the thing is, like, you have very high sanitation records or something.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to me, they infer, like, THX just keeps himself
clean. There's a reason for that. Why you don't do it, I don't know. But,
and then, so, and also too, like, the society let the government or the society let this relationship with THX and LUH go on so long, but they already knew that LUH was taking the pills away from him.
Yeah.
They knew, but
they just kept going.
And it wasn't until, I think, Sen reported it that they interfered. But at the same time, THX reported Sen for him going into unauthorized areas and to talk to THX.
Yeah, because, again, everything is monitored. Pills are regulated, or, everything is just like, okay, did you take the pills or not? It's mandatory to take these pills.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to keep people in this kind of drone-like state, to not really think, just do the job.
Yeah, it was the kind of never really explained.
Yeah, the work is dangerous because you would even hear from the speaker. You hear like those type of corporate words like, be productive, be happy.
Be happy, yeah. It's been this many days since we had an accident.
Right.
Prevent accidents or something.
Today, we lost 62 workers compared to last week's.
Oh, they were just earned with it.
And they're like, good job.
It was only 5 instead of 10 this time.
Yeah. But hey, that means it's better. And there's also like some sort of, I don't know if you notice, there's currency involved. There's credits involved, money.
Yes.
That everything they do has a budget, whether it be like, investigating someone or to, arresting someone or experimenting. There's a budget, and they would announce that, hey, we did this
low budget. Yep.
The
in credits.
In credits.
And was it Galactic Credits?
Galactic, yeah.
That's where we got the thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So something I wanted to talk about is a lot of the tech that was in this movie, and a lot of George Lucas stuff too. So like holograms were a big thing in this. The robots, so they are policed, like you can see them, but by robots, which I thought they were guys, actual human beings in the beginning, but then you see how they're moving and how they're talking. It's robots. But if you remember, they were taller than everybody else by at least like 2 or 3 feet, or 2 feet probably.
Yeah.
And they were just creepy looking.
Yeah.
They had like they were like singer masks.
The best way I could describe it is those dummies that they would have in stores. They dress up.
But they were painted.
They are human-like, but their faces have no expression. But there's just, obviously, it's just like a human head without a face.
And then so they had the TV, but you notice the remote control
was like it
was hooked up with the wire.
Yeah, didn't it look like one of those Nintendo Joy?
It looked like a Joy-Con, yeah,
from the Wii or something.
but it was So then the robots. Another thing about future stuff, online therapy, which kind of was like the confessional,
right.
That's what they have now with BetterHelp, which is a sponsor. No,
I really
BetterHelp. You need a therapist and you don't want to get out of your seat. BetterHelp. Hey, BetterHelp, if you guys are listening, I don't
friends with
sponsor the show. CCTV was now it's commonplace. I mean, there's literally one outside my room right now. And then the surveillance. I did like the minimalist design of this, which I think as millennials, it's funny. There's like some memes going around about like why millennials are so minimalist in their apartments. I know if you saw my apartment, it's very like, and it's like, well, if we grew up with especially like Latina moms, that like have trinkets everywhere and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, well, no wonder us millennials in our places, we like to have everything like. We like to simple.
Yeah, we like space to breathe.
We like space to breathe. I don't want to be cleaning a table and have to move like all 50 things off of it. It's like just no. So I did like that aspect and how everything was just very minimalist in the design. And that's what's kind of wonky about the director's cut is because the director's cut is not. So when they add scenes to it, it's very busy. And you can tell like,
you can tell immediately because this movie is from the 1970s, and then you have certain scenes that I was like, "Whoa, this looks great for 1970." Oh no, this is added, like because it literally certain scenes look like they're CGI and they look like they were made like within this year.
Yeah,
So it just to me it just felt like it took me out of the scene for a sec. I mean, you
settle into it pretty quick.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, yeah, and then. So he eventually gets caught, both THX and LUH. They get put on trial separately, or they just show THX's trial.
Yeah,
but it's very quick. And I noticed that like they have defense lawyers and prosecutors, and it didn't seem like they were under any control themselves.
Right.
And I was like, well, if it's I guess I don't know how authoritarian this government is that they have trials,
right?
And then they have. But then eventually they get put into a prison, which is just a white void.
Yeah.
Which, that was kind of creepy.
That was creepy, yeah. Because
it's like,
you can huge void, and let's just say you are in the middle of it with these regular sofa bed, chairs.
And other prisoners.
And these prisoners vary from, they have mental issues, obviously.
But one was blind, one had mental issues, one was a creep.
Yeah.
And then Sen was also the creep.
Yeah.
One guy just kept talking and talking and talking.
This old man.
Okay,
pats you on the from the shoulder.
And that's kind of creepy because it's just a white voice. Kind of like the song from Hotel California from the Eagles. It's like you could check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Yeah.
Kind of the thing like they seem to be walking and we'll get to that scene later, but when they're trying to escape, if they would have kept walking the other way, they would have like never been able to leave because it seemed like it was an infinite void. Kind of like a light.
Right, exactly. I really expected them to come back to where they were.
Like in the Matrix, when out through when at the train station, he goes one way and he just comes out
the
the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So before that happens, LUH and THX, they get separated. And you really don't hear that much anymore from LUH.
I mean, they are seen together one more time.
They are together.
Be together.
Oh yeah, in the void. Like it's like it's not jail. It's like it's not prison. It's like jail.
Right.
So they're in jail, and then they eventually get sent to like the prison. But it's basically the same void.
Yeah.
Except they're by themselves.
Right.
And then she tells them so they're separated and they come back together in the void.
Right.
But she tells them that she's pregnant.
Right.
If you look at the later scenes, that is prohibited for her to be pregnant because they grow humans. Like in the later scene, you see that there's like bottles with fetuses.
Yes,
there.
yeah.
So it's like at that point, I was like, what's going to be the ramifications of her being pregnant? And then we find out later.
Oh, yeah.
But in the void, THX finally says he wants to escape. He wants to get out of here. And him and SCN or Sen, they basically just start walking in one direction. And then Zen has all those biscuits.
Yeah, but he literally has like a dozen biscuits.
And it looks like bars of soap.
Yeah, there's like squares or whatever.
Biscuits, but it looks like hardtack.
What's funny is that he keeps dropping them, but
Somehow he still has a bunch.
He seems to have the same amount, and he's dropping like 4, like every now and then. But he seems to still have that same dozen with him.
I think it's like Jesus with the manna.
Probably.
That it just keeps like replenishing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but Robert Duvall, his character has blue eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
I don't know if he actually has them in real life. Let me check. But whatever they did, I think they turned the saturation up on his blue eyes because it's like
they're really bright,
very bright in some scenes.
It wasn't in all the scenes, but yeah, especially in the White Void. That's what I noticed. It. I was like, oh, he's got blue eyes.
Yeah. I think it shows a lot more in the Void that he has these piercing blue eyes, and I'm like, what does that mean? And I never. I guess maybe like that's the one thing that was pure in this.
Maybe because of the set.
The set was all white.
There was like a lot of white light just hitting him, and maybe it just hit his eyes a lot.
They're walking like infinitely, basically, and then they
run into somebody.
They run into somebody.
They see a figure in the distance.
One of what would you say? Like 3 or 4 black characters are in the
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it was in the 70s, but you know.
So since then, he's had a reputation for not putting black actors in his movies.
It was like it was even introduced to the audience in a way. I mean, all right. First off, we see him in the distance waving, acknowledging that they're there.
Yeah.
And he just starts walking in a very happy-go-lucky walk, like he doesn't have care in the world. And then the camera's like behind THX and Sen, and this figure keeps on getting closer. He's blurring the distance, and it starts, concentrating, and then it's revealed, oh, he's a tall, young black man.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe back then that was supposed to be a shocker.
I guess so.
Because the scene is meant to be
played. Yeah, like that. It's made to be played as a shocking, also like unsure at the time kind of thing. And I was just like, I think you and me both had the same, like, why would the what? What's going on? Now, again, we see it, like you said, we see it with the lenses of 2024, but maybe in 71
it's a different,
I guess. I'm not saying that it's okay, but it was.
It was just played that way, and we were like, I guess that was a thing back then.
Yeah.
It's something we just noticed and decided to mention. But yeah, this character, he comes in, he says, hey, I haven't run into anybody,
hungry.
I'm hungry. Do you have, is that food? And he just grabs it with, thanks. He just grabs it, starts eating it. And then they just, they ask him, who are you? And he goes, oh, I'm a hologram.
Yeah.
And that's when we both went, what? Because when I thought of hologram, I'm thinking holographic image.
Yeah.
Holographic. I mean.
And you see holograms in this movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like that.
Let me ask you, how did you interpret that?
So I don't remember him saying hologram when he was in the void.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him saying afterwards when they were outside. So if I would have heard him say hologram in the void, I would have been like, okay, well, the void is a separate thing. Maybe holograms can live here, kind of like a computer program or something like that. But when I heard it, when he said it outside, I was like, how is a hologram able to be tangible?
Right.
To have...
He's able to...
Yeah, to
grab
physical, but not, and also too, like, if it just looked like a human being, which is fine, I guess I could imagine like a perfectly structured hologram, but like,
right,
he was able to touch stuff. He was able to touch people. He wasn't like going through them. Well, then we understand like why was this thing created,
right,
and why was he in the void? If he was created by society. By the dystopian corporation, whatever you want to call it, why was he put in the void in the first place?
Well, he did explain it. He did say, like, when first introduced and they asked him, I guess you missed it. He did say, I am a hologram. He didn't want to be a hologram anymore, so he left.
Oh,
So-
he was the one that decided to leave.
Right. So here's my theory.
Okay.
When he said he's a hologram, I think what he means is he was telling them his work title. Like he used to, he remember the holographic TV
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
beginning that they watch? He used to be
Okay, okay.
part of that. That was his purpose. That
Kind of like saying engineer or like,
right.
like, what are you? Oh, I'm an engineer.
Actor or
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay,
something.
okay.
Now, so that's when
And that's what they call people who worked with holograms, a hologram.
yeah. So
Okay.
that I'm guessing that he was just announcing.
That actually makes sense. I didn't get that.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because when we see people watching TV, it's usually
It's all
black
hologram.
people. It's all black.
That is true.
You know, they would show like a news anchor.
The news and then like a comedian and stuff.
Then all of a sudden, there's this comedy bit with
Yeah.
black people talking about, "Hey, I drove a car into
A crowd of people, and they're just.
I didn't hit anyone though, ha ha ha." And
But also too, if they're supposed to not have emotion, why would they have comedy?
that's the thing. But I don't know. Again, it's just.
And some of the other things in that particular scene, it's like, well, if you're not supposed to have emotions, then why do they have
This, yeah. Why? But the thing is, that's what I was noticing about this character is that
that makes sense.
he was displaying a lot more emotion than any of the other characters we've seen. It like he was kind of like a lost puppy or something, a very sweet guy, very caring. You know,
So many things, bro. Like, now that you're saying this, so many things how this movie influenced.
yeah,
That is 100% a storyline in The Matrix 3, where there's a program
that's right. That cares for Neo.
and he has a wife and kid, and he decides to leave because he wants his
He wants his daughter to exist
to
because
exist. Yeah,
her daughter's not meant to exist. She doesn't
Yep.
have a purpose.
she doesn't have a purpose.
So they went to this place in order.
So many things.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He's the one that helps him escape the void, basically, and he's like, "That's right there,
Right there. And it looks like he points behind them. And he's like, no. They're like, no, we came from there. There's nothing there. He's like, yeah, there is. Look. And they turn around. And in the 1970s special effects way, there's like a black dot blinking in the
Yeah.
distance.
And then when they show it from the perspective of where the exit it's at, it literally looks like the other part of the set.
Yeah.
If you kind of notice, like the void, right?
Right.
All white, and it literally looks like they just turned the camera, and it's like the set.
Yeah. I'm sure.
It's just like a door.
I'm sure when these actors were walking, they walked, from one side to the other.
Yeah,
for many takes.
many takes.
Yeah.
Then I didn't understand what that area was. Was that like the city itself?
Yeah. Okay. So they were
like a
by the
subway.
door. They go through the door, and remind you, the void is just deathly quiet.
Yeah.
It's just there's nothing there. So when they open that door, you are just bombarded by noise. It basically imagine like rush hour
In Tokyo or New York.
There's just the
sea of people.
Yeah, sea of people walking, a lot of footsteps, and through this THX with SRT, SCN got separated from them because the crowd started pushing them, away from each other.
I thought that SRT was gonna. I mean, not SRT. SEN was gonna get like trampled. Or
Yeah,
like stuff.
so did I. And I was like, oh man, because THX and hologram SRT did the smart thing and hugged the wall. They just directly went into the wall, while SEN was started to be pushed,
Basically
and-
twirled like
yeah,
a world,
around
like a
and-
washing machine.
Yeah, and he's just pushed off and separated from these guys. It won't be the last time we see him, but it was like a really really interesting moment. I'm like, I don't know what this place is, because people are just going from one place to another in unison, and I don't know. It makes me realize, this dystopia again is bigger than what I thought it was.
I don't know if you noticed when they had the cut scenes, they would play like a little bit of music. There wasn't that much music in it in this movie. The cut scenes, they would show like a little transitional music, and then with the sound of the cars. So the cutscene music sounds similar to the THX theme music.
Oh, are you serious? I didn't hear that.
Yeah. And then the car sounded either like pod racers or X-wings. Yeah. So I'm sure it was like a precursor to like, he probably used the same sound or like adjusted them a little bit, but that's what they sounded like. And when I heard it, I was like, I know that. I know that. Especially I'll show it to you right now when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
But the cutscenes, it was that famous THX, like,
Okay.
or, whatever it sounded like.
Maybe I did hear it, but I wasn't paying attention because I was trying to figure out what was going on.
So they get separated.
Mm-hmm.
Sen goes basically through the city, which is not explained if this is separate from where they live.
Yeah.
But you kind of like come to the conclusion, oh yeah, it is separated.
Yeah.
And these are just working class people.
Yeah.
And that's where he meets the kid that has the
well, pretty
chemicals.
much he's on a subway or a monorail train, and you see him just sitting down alone with his eyes wide open, just trying to figure out what's going on next step. What is he gonna do? He actually goes to this other corridor that's just dark, and he sees a working class, and then he realizes he's not supposed to be there. He turns around, jumps back on the train, and then that's where he ends up in this new location where there are kids literally just playing a type of game.
Yeah.
Sen just acts normally, and he walks towards a bench that is nearby and just sits there contemplating it on himself. And then there's this random kid goes up to him and asks him for help. And what it is that this kid, he's got on his arm like little capsules,
chemical
bottles, and a tube going to in his hands. But the two got separated. So he was asking them for help. Can you connect these two together? And he did. And then he just playfully just tells them, when I was your age, we didn't have free time like this. We had to sleep. We had to be in bed. And we had this type of chemical inserted into us. It took a week to consume it. And all the kids were like, wow.
And do you think it's because kind of like ours are in our normal, normal, quote unquote, in the real world, it's just like, well, the younger generation always has it easier? Or is it that is a different society and they submit to a different type of roles where they don't have to do all the stuff that Sen did?
That's what I thought it was. I just kind of assumed that the technology has advanced.
Oh, okay.
That, hey, they're not doing the same thing to the next generation. There are better methods like in real life. So, hey, maybe for Sen, he had like a tank or a gallon of liquid that needed to be.
And now it's only like a little.
And now it's just for the new generation.
Oh, okay.
It's these two small little capsules.
So I'm assuming that those kids will eventually get put into the next work.
They are the next generation.
The next generation of working class. Yeah, the working class. So at this point, we don't hear anything more about LUH, except one thing towards when they cut to THX and SRT, they're in like the fertility area, and he's talking to a computer trying to look for LUH, and it says she doesn't exist anymore. They can't find her.
Her designation.
And he's like, why can't I find her? And then they realize he looked for her in the fertility area. And he realizes that her designation has been consumed and re-given to somebody else, to something else.
Right.
And it cuts to a picture, an image of a small, basically a mason jar with a fetus in it. Yeah. And then it says LUH, her designation.
To me, it looked like a mummified body in a capsule.
I think it was a fetus. Yeah, right. That's what it looked. Yeah. And I think we're supposed to assume that she was killed. And the fetus was taken, or the fetus was taken out, and then because their mother and daughter, or mother and son, that designation was just given to that fetus,
probably.
And he's like, no, that can't be right.
The THX couldn't accept it,
and then the SRT is like, oh, maybe
maybe you are right,
and then THX is like, you kind of see it in his face, like he accepted, like after he denied it for like 30 seconds,
right.
He just accepted it. He's like, well, I guess she's
gone.
She's gone. And that's, again, the thing that, like, maybe because they don't have emotions or they're suppressing them, that they start feeling things really quickly as far as, like, emotions, or they process it quickly. Like we were mentioning about him going from, like, like not even caring about his roommate LUH to like falling in love with her was like really quick.
It just, maybe there was no art, there was no time. It just happened.
So maybe that's a side effect of them starting to feel emotions that they don't know how to like.
Yeah, and even SRT, still being this innocent being, he was like, well, maybe you are right. Maybe a computer is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, engineering, lasers, all this stuff, I don't understand it. Maybe we are not meant never to understand it.
So then they're basically at this, the rest of the time they're trying to escape.
Yeah.
And the police. And
right. So trying to escape, what do?
They get into some cars.
They start my favorite scene in this film that just reminds me of Speed Racer.
And those cars look like Speed Racer.
Exactly.
Those are very 70s.
Like, and it's very hilarious.
Ford GT kind of.
Yeah. And, you know, THX is able to get on this police car, race car.
Never driven.
Never driven. He just does it.
SRT
gets in a car, and being so tall, he just slowly starts to get into this car.
And he crashes.
And then immediately crashes into the nearest pillar.
And they, so they're basically...
And that was the end of we ever hear of him.
So you assume that
Sen, for example, that was the last time we hear of Sen.
Was in the subway, right?
Yeah, it was in the subway. Though we would see it through like a camera monitor or something, and you would hear a voice. Can we send, you know, certain police or, you know, authorities to pick up SEN at this location? So for me, I kind of assume like he was arrested again and taken back.
And then that's the last year from him. You assume that he's dead, SRT.
Right. But it is like when people see the front of the seat, there's nobody there. So you kind of assume like, okay,
he was a hologram and he just
maybe
hologrammed away.
Exactly. He could have just, I don't know.
And they're basically chasing as THX through these tunnels,
right?
And it's said in the movie that he's going 235 miles.
Yeah, he is, and it shows because there's certain scenes that are just and again, I don't know if this was like the director's cut where he starts driving into traffic, like
it might have been
because there's like a lot of cars. Yeah, there are traffic, there are lanes, and again, it shows
basically they're in tunnels.
Yeah, they're just showing us underground again that this place is a lot more bigger than what we think it is. There's a lot more if there's cars driving from one place to another.
So there's literally freeways. Yeah, there's all that stuff. And so this scene basically culminates, and then he's going so fast he goes into a road that's not yet finished.
Right.
He hits scaffolding. One guy is able to escape. Which I think I'll have to look at it again. I think that was part of the director's cut because that guy looked kind of digital. The guy that like jumped
onto the exit away.
Yeah. And then there's other two guys that just get destroyed.
That was the only guy I saw, and I was like so impressed. I gave him
like two other guys on that thing.
Well, two other guys
that just like
bam.
And then the two police robots chasing and
more androids. That's the thing. All
the police are androids.
Everything are just these robots,
droids.
These droids.
Yeah, I guess it would be androids because they're kind of human-like.
Like remember when they were like when THX and SRT were in that room? They were outside. There was two droids outside, trying to
we're not afraid. You have nothing to be afraid.
But the thing is, I don't know if you noticed. Oops, sorry. That there's a scene where one of them starts to have a conversation with the other and crosses his arms and leans onto the wall. And I'm like, okay, so these guys are able to do stuff like emotions, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I know you're correct because in the subway scene with the kids, there's a robot there and the kids are trying to play with them and they're trying to get their baton.
That's right.
And the cop says, well, if it makes you happy.
If it makes you happy, here.
Yeah.
Be careful. Be careful.
So the two, and there's only ever like two on a scene, if you notice, like two or three.
At one time.
Yeah. And at the end credits, it shows cops and robot cops or something like that. And it just lists two people. So I think it was just those two tall guys.
The same dude.
Guys. So there's both of these are chasing THX in a motorcycle in the tunnels. He hits the scaffolding, THX, destroys the scaffolding, kills two people, basically. Then one bike before that hits some debris, he falls. Then the next one hits the scaffolding.
Scaffolding and gets destroyed.
Did you notice that a stunt? That was real.
Really? And I was wondering.
It was an actual guy. And so in the documentary that I saw, they said that scene was real. That guy, he was this tough, like, stunt man. He was like, let's do it. Obviously, you have padding and stuff like that. But they said that he either hit the ramp or he hit some debris that he wasn't supposed to, and he went like flying away from where he was supposed to. And if you see it, like he flies, he falls down, the bike hits him, and then he slams into like more debris or something like that. And then they said that I don't know if you noticed that too, right when that happens, the scene cuts.
Yeah.
So it's because they cut the scene.
Because something bad happened.
Because something bad happened. So they start, and everybody was like, oh, this guy's dead. Like, this guy is dead. They're like freaking out. So they start coming towards them. And I think it said George Lucas or one of the cinematographers like gets to him, and he's just laying there motionless. They open his visor, and the guy says, why did you ruin the shot? So he was fine. And if you see it, like, he 100% hits the ground hard.
I couldn't tell if it was real or not.
Or a dummy or something.
It looked like a real person, but he got hit so hard that I thought, I don't think anyone would be able to survive that. Now that you tell me, I'm like, wow. I mean, the stuff people are, we don't give them enough credit. They usually do.
They were talking about it, and I don't know if they have yet, but they were, the Academy Awards were thinking about putting a award for like best stunt crew.
They should have done this long ago. I do believe they should do that.
I mean, those Mission Impossible movies, like, come on, man, like, that's a whole.
There's a lot of movies.
Well, see, the thing is, though, Tom Cruise would probably win every single time.
Yeah, probably.
And then at that point, those two cops are gone. THX is running, and then so this is another society that we see now. Is like the underground, what they call shell dwellers.
Yeah, shell dwellers. They're like monkey-like creatures. They're all hairy. They are like, they remind me of the monkeys from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And they start attacking, I guess, THX.
Yeah, and I thought
one, wrapped around all on him for some reason.
And I thought that was going to be a bigger thing. Again, they don't explain
who they are, what they are.
It kind of reminded me again of the Morlocks from the Time Machine. Like they live underground, and also from the X-Men.
Yeah.
That they live underground and kind of thing. And he just like kind of runs through them. And it's just like a scene about 20, 25 seconds, 30 seconds.
It was a very brief scene.
And then you're just like, wait, no, go back. What was going on there? That's a lot of things that happen. And I think that, again, a student film, and he just wanted it to move at a clip. But a lot of times I was like, wait, no, like,
well, I mean,
explain that.
You could have taken that out and nothing would have changed.
And nothing would have changed.
You added it in.
Now explain it.
Now explain it, yes.
Well, or at least have something in the beginning where they talk about, like, in the newsreel or something about, like, the cities or what they were rejecting.
Someone did mention something about, shell dwellers. No, remember the boy when THX got into the prison?
Okay.
There was this little man. And they asked, what is he? And one of them said, I think he's a shell dweller.
Oh, really?
Because he didn't speak. The little,
and he also had
didn't
hair.
Speak. Yeah.
And everybody's bald in this.
And he started acting, when one of them tried to pet him or touch him.
Feral.
He started acting and screaming.
Maybe that's what it was. Huh. Interesting. Maybe they're like, I don't know, like rejects, like born, like they didn't, again, like what am I trying to say? Not ferment, like grow correctly, I guess. So they call off the chase of THX because it got too expensive.
Yes.
Speaking of the critics.
They mentioned, the budget. The budget is over what we want, so they tell the police cops, the robot cops to come back. THX was climbing up this ladder. And the robots were climbing it as well, and then they were ordered to come back down because the budget to capture him is over budget. It's not worth it. Let him go.
Because, and that was the thing. So they let him go. He goes out. of the sewer through a tunnel, like basically like a manhole.
Yeah.
And he's out in this, seemed like a desert.
It seemed like a plane.
Basically on the surface.
On the surface. Yeah.
And he's just like in front of a sunset.
Sunset.
Roll credits.
Roll credits. The credits start like at the bottom right.
Yeah. And you're watching basically the sunset. So in the scene, THX, you could only see a silhouette
of him. Yeah.
Of him. And he's like very, very small in the distance. Blurry. And then the sunset is basically the entire screen.
Right.
And it slowly starts to descend. And this was at a point in time in movies where the credits were before the movie, and it wasn't until Star Wars that they did it reverse. Well,
right.
It was one of the main ones that did it. So the end credits were very brief. But the way I interpret it as, not only is it over budget, but they figure he's going to go out there into the surface of the earth and he's going to die. Like, there's nothing there to sustain him. There's nothing.
Right. The thing.
That's what I interpreted.
When he was out, okay, he left this, but what did he get into? You know, what is he going, you know, what did he lose in the end? What did he gain?
It's like, I only thought it up to this point, and now that I'm here, it's like,
what now? Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you've heard of the movie The Graduate.
I heard of it, yeah.
So, spoiler for a movie that's almost, 60 years old.
Yeah.
At the end, he goes to the wedding of the girl. He's like, no, don't marry them. And they run off together. They get on a bus and they sit down and they kind of just look at each other like,
well,
what now? Yeah. And then they start playing The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, like, hello, darkness, my old friend. And that's kind of what it is. Like, you have this amazing plan, you want to get out and you're all looking for it. And then you finally get it and you're like,
what's next?
What's next? What's like, and that's what I kind of saw it as, like, well, it's over budget, but also too, he's going to die out there, like in the void. That's what I thought. And then you were like, no, like, what if nobody started? Like,
yeah, I was going, no, I was pointing at it. I was like, are you serious? That's it? No, you can't just end it there. Like, because I thought, okay, he got out, he left this. Now, what did he got in? What did he get into now? What, he left thing.
This movie was going to be planned as a trilogy.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And they didn't make it because it didn't make that much money.
Yeah. It was when I remember when I was doing my notes and reading up into it and just remembering the names, I looked into just the history of it, and it didn't flop. It was a mixed reviews.
Yeah.
There was people saying that there was vision there. There is talent there, but unfortunately it's also mixed with, untalent parts. That's what there's different quotes and different reviews, and I kind of agree that there is something interesting here, a story to be told, but it just wasn't told very effectively, or there's certain parts of the movie that wasn't explained well,
So I think that's why, and I think that's why you were kind of left with that sour taste in your mouth, because it was supposed to be a trilogy and they didn't make the money. So, and this film was not made with a lot of money, even though it was backed by Francis Ford Coppola and they got a little bit of other funding from Warner Brothers, but I think the budget was $770,000, which is not a lot of money. Even back then, it's not a lot of money.
777,000.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had so little money that they initially were going to film some of this in Japan. So in the documentary, it says that George Lucas actually went to Japan to check out scenes. And one of the problems that they had is to film in Japan, even today, is very difficult to get permits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they got the funding for it and they got the permits, but then they didn't have enough money to bring George Lucas over.
Oh God.
And I was like, what? Like, it shouldn't cost that much. I guess maybe in the 70s there was a lot of money.
It's a different time and
to cost.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe like I don't know, but I thought that was interesting that so they filmed a lot of this in San Francisco.
Okay.
Then George Lucas being from from Alameda, and that's where Skywalker Ranch is at in that area. So they filmed this in the BART, in the Bay Area Rail Transit or whatever it is. I don't know if you've ever been, I mean, me and you both live in California. So they hadn't yet fully constructed it. So that's why they were able to film there. And so you could kind of see like some of the common areas that the people were, they kind of look like subway systems. Another funny thing that I saw in this, in doing the research, is they said that one of the hard things for them to get a cast was because they legit had to shave their heads.
That's right.
So Robert Duvall, he said, like, I didn't really have a problem with it because I was already like losing my hair, but especially for the female characters that were in this movie. There's a video of it where LUH, her name is the actress's name is Maggie, that they are shaving her head in the Palace of the Fine Arts in San Francisco. It's like this outdoor garden that they has like these domes and stuff. It's really beautiful, but they're like actually shaving her head, like, and there's video of it in public. And so then they were like, okay, well, we got 3 people or maybe 4 people, to shave their heads that are kind of the main cast. So these are the 4 main characters, but there's a ton of background actors, a lot of extras. So what they did was, in order for them to find people that were willing to shave their head for that long of time, they went to a rehab center.
I read about that. I read about that.
They paid them $30 and they were just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I read about that and I was like, wow, surprised. Yeah, in order to get people like
$30 a day, and then you get your head shaved. I mean, $30 a day is kind of a lot in 19.
Yeah, it's currency was. They would give me like, hey, give you $100 to shave your head. I'm like, and be in the movie, I'll be like, yeah, sure.
So what are some things that you think would have benefited this movie? Like, as far as like to make it that much, or would have drawn it more people would have.
I don't know, man. I'm like, this is obviously George Lucas was telling the story in a type of way. But for me, it would have been more if, like, I guess for a bigger crowd, like more information, more info is explained, get a better sense of what's going on, what this dystopia is.
Because was it just like that these were what the movies were like back in the day, where they didn't have that much explanation? I don't know.
I mean, there has been movies where they are able to just make a scene, explain it really well to the fact where they don't need to explain it everywhere. There are many movies that are able to do that. I just feel like this movie wasn't able to do that because, again, George Lucas just didn't have that talent to. Again, there is vision here. I could totally see why the movie is a classic in some way, but I also feel like, yeah, there is some stuff that I feel like they should have been left in the oven for a longer time. It should have been cooked.
Yeah. I think, now, I'm a big fan of show me, don't tell me.
Yes.
In the movies. We were talking about this particular movie yesterday, and with this particular subject, Inception. A great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I think it's one of Christopher Nolan's best movies. But I do think that there's a lot of exposition in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Even towards the end, like, they're still explaining the movie, and it's like, I know it's a complicated premise, Inception, but it's like show don't tell. But I think in this case it could have benefited from a little bit more explanation, or the editing not be like cut from one thing to the other and you're still left, maybe like let it linger a little bit more.
Yeah, because
in their action,
even for us, we're watching it and it literally,
I mean, the movie was only an hour and 30.
Yeah, and we felt like the entire movie took place in a 24-hour period, which, in fact, actually is supposed to be months apart.
I think so, yeah.
I think, but it doesn't feel that way.
It literally felt like I would say like 5 hours, 6 hours.
Like, okay, maybe 2 days.
How long was he in the void?
Who knows? I don't know.
How long was it from the time she started drugging or taking away his drugs to the time he fell in love with her?
We don't know.
Who knows? Like, how long was the trial?
Did this happen to LUH?
Yeah.
From somebody else. And this is how she did it. We don't know. There's a lot of
why did she want to start doing
this movie that's never really explained.
I do see the influences, though.
Yeah.
Well, I kept talking about different, but I do see like certain things that it got its influences from, and then also things that it influenced later on. So like the movie The Island, I think it's a really good movie. Definitely that. Some stuff from The Matrix, the whole aesthetic. I think there's a bunch of rock bands that have been influenced by that.
It kind of reminded me of, you ever seen the Twilight Zone, the old episodes, like back in the 40s?
Yeah,
It felt similar to that. Like
it could have been in Twilight episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a really long one.
Yeah, just a really long one. It just reminded me of that. Hey, there's something bigger out there. You just don't know it yet. And you slowly get there.
And I think we're nowadays we're used to like these big epics of like 2.5, 3.5 hours long where they explain literally everything. And I know that I'm seeing it with the lens of like that. And like I said, this movie is only an hour and 30, but it could have used a little bit more explanation.
Yeah, just 5 more minutes of something.
Not at, like it didn't explain anything. Like,
yeah, it didn't. Like
at least give me one thing of like, who is this authoritarian government? Is it a government? Is it just, why are they living in these underground cities?
It's just a group of people in charge.
Yeah.
Are they the only humans?
Is it a corporation? Do they believe in God or the digital Jesus?
Yeah,
because they seem to believe in God a little
bit. They have,
or a form of,
because I remember like THX and LUH, they were in their room and they were like bowing down.
They were kneeling.
They were kneeling to like an image who is a priest. Or
some sort of monk, and they have like monks or nuns,
yeah, something like that. And they were like doing it they were bowing to it, getting up.
I just remember the scene where Sen he punches out one of them.
Did he punch him? I'm like, did he?
But that was also weird too, because so you can't see their faces. Like they're dressed like nuns. They're legitimately dressed like nuns.
Yeah,
but they have a hood that's covering their face, so it's just like a black boy their face, and it looks. The figure was kind of feminine,
right?
But the voice was masculine,
right?
And he punches. I don't know the stick or punches him out.
It's like, it was like a luck tap.
Yeah, it's like you're not supposed to be here. And he's
just kind of like yeah. Just I was like, did you knock him out? Wow, it didn't take much.
I think this is a pretty cool movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one that I'm gonna be like, how can I say this? Like if someone's like, have you seen THX?
It's definitely not a movie that you would want to watch soon. Like,
or again, you wouldn't want to watch it because you're just like, okay, like I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it because as a science fiction nerd, you kind of need to like see it. But other than that, it's like I saw it.
I'm done with it.
I'm done.
There's really no reason to go back.
I'm done. No, there really isn't. There really isn't. Unless I think this movie would benefit from not so much a remake, because there's been a bunch of movies like this, but maybe a sequel. Like, but also like at this point, it's just like, what's the point? Or maybe like a comic book or something.
I mean, is there even a fan base? I'm sure there is, but is it enough to make a profit?
Yeah, they have streaming stuff now. You can put it on like Hulu or Netflix. Well, I mean, honestly, what is George Lucas doing? I mean, like nothing.
He's retired.
He's enjoying all his Star Wars money.
Yeah,
which I feel like he kind of regretted selling Star Wars because of like the way that Disney is.
His characters to be protected,
he had to
not
continue
be meddled with, not to be
filmed.
But the problem is Rian Johnson wanted to do his own thing.
They're terrible. I thought with The Last Jedi,
that's what Kathleen Kennedy wanted.
They were going to be like,
except it was going to be
The Last Jedi, because
they
get involved in politics, they get involved in all these different stuff. And like
I'm sorry, but those books her lightsaber color is yellow.
Yeah. Die of an overdose of cocaine.
3 hours later.
Yeah.
So back to THX, bud. What'd you think about this movie?
I honestly enjoyed my time with it. I really had fun watching it. It was a very interesting time. I wasn't at the edge of my seat, but I was always you're always thinking, about it constantly. You were just thinking, what is going on?
Maybe that's what
is happening.
Yeah, maybe that's what his trick was.
Yeah, just to really think about. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned here. I don't know what the work economy or how the work culture was in the 70s, but pretty much I'm guessing that, the higher ups, corporate, is just monitoring everything, making sure everything is labeled, is counted correctly.
Yeah.
That the work class should just work and not think, and also the working class is expendable, can be replaced, because you see in the movie, a lot of people will just die from these dangerous jobs, and they don't feel anything.
And they're just making robots. I think they're just making...
Yeah, they were making robots. Dude, maybe Skynet was involved in this. I mean, this was the first class attempt Terminators. I don't know. because they do have a nuclear core.
They do. It's good movies. All right, yeah, I think I'm the same about it. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah,
Good movie.
I would recommend it for people just to check it out.
You're a sci-fi nerd.
Yeah, if you like sci-fi and these types of things.
And again, watch the not the director's cut. That has a little bit more stuff that's kind of iffy.
But just go with the original.
Go with the original.
If you can.
If you can.
Yeah, but I totally recommend it.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. I know you had to come back.
I appreciate doing time. I had a lot of fun.
For sure, we're gonna have you on another one. There's a couple movies I have that are sci-fi and maybe a comic book movie. I know we're big comic book dudes, so we'll definitely have you on, man. Thank you so much, and I hope your dog gets better.
Yeah, my little
Diabetic dog.
Yeah, my little Bella.
All right, then, dude. I guess we'll see you in like what, a couple hours?
Again, man, I appreciate you.
No problem.
All this, and
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
thank you, Matt. I can't say enough.
You